weekend.
Its leading news program with Dave Frankel, Rick Williams, and Monica Malpass.
Good afternoon. In the news, the woman who tried to put O.J. behind bars calls it quits as a prosecutor.
Gunplay in Chester leaves an officer and another man hospitalized. And an accident in Florida leads to pennies and dollars on Earth.
But the big story on Action News this noon is the first snowfall of 1997. We are live on Sky 6 looking toward Fairmount Park. As you can see, the flakes are falling close to Philadelphia. It started to snow a little about 11 this morning in the city, just as AccuWeather predicted. For all of those AccuWeather details now, let's go right outside to Dave Frankel with the very latest. David?
All right, Monica, everything is right on schedule so far. We dawned with a cloudy day, and from about 9 o'clock until about now, the snow has been overspreading the area. So far, this is how we expected it to turn out. Now, what's going to happen as we go through the rest of the day? Well, let's show you another live picture this morning. We are live on the Action Cam in Wilmington, Delaware on Route 202. They have started to pick up the snow there, a little ahead of Philadelphia, and then moved up through the city and then up into Trenton and the Lehigh Valley, Berks County, all picking it up as well. Here's the story throughout the rest of the afternoon. The winter storm, from now till 3 p.m., snow will continue to overspread the area and probably picking up about a coating in some areas to about 1 to 3 inches in and around the city and north and west of the city. Now, if you're right along the Jersey shore, the Delaware shore, it probably doesn't accumulate at all. And even where it accumulates these areas, we're going to see a changeover. That changeover to icy conditions and then eventually to rain. That will take place sometime in the afternoon between about 3 and 6 p.m. So evening rush hour still could be quite icy with sleet and freezing rain over much of the viewing area. But we're expecting just enough mild air to get in by this evening to change things over to rain just about everywhere except well north and west of the city. Here's the picture on Action Radar, and you can see the system is taking over the tri-state region, moving on up into New York and continuing down into the Virginias. Let's set it in motion, show you what it's been doing. There was the leading edge. It had to saturate the air first, and then it could start to fall to the ground, and that's exactly what happened starting at about 9 o'clock this morning. As we break this down for you, you will see the layers in this thing, and it goes over exactly what we just talked about. Snow for a while, that's the white stuff. And then you see that line of blue, that is that mix, the icy mix of sleet and freezing rain just creeping into Delaware now. And then from Delaware on south, it is just rain. So that's what we're up against for the next 6 hours or so. Things could be treacherous. Then we should start to see improvement as the milder air comes in and we see the change over to rain. We'll have an update on this situation and, of course, the complete 5-day forecast coming up inside in just a few minutes. Rick?
All right, David, thank you. Well, PennDOT crews started gearing up for this blast of winter during the overnight hours. Here in Hunting Park, the salt trucks were loading up to keep the roads clear. And on the Schuylkill Expressway, the plows were waiting for the snow just after sunrise. Now, let's go live to King of Prussia. An Action News weather reporter, Cecily Tynan, for a look at conditions in the suburbs. Cecily.
Well, Rick, the snow has been falling since a little before 11 o'clock this morning in King of Prussia. Right now, it is coating the grass. The roads are wet, and we haven't seen any problems. Actually, the salt trucks have been going by us all morning long, and actually a lot of folks we spoke with said that they were happy to see the snow finally this season.
Means I'm going to get work.
For snowplow operators, this season has been a letdown since the record-breaking winter of '96.
Nothing yet. I mean, this is the first snowfall. We already had 4 or 5 by this time last year, so, you know, anticipation, that's all. Just waiting for the big one.
The late morning snow seemed to take this golfer off guard, but the King of Prussia Home Depot has been waiting for a storm like this all season.
It's been busy, and people are coming in, picking up the rock salt, snow shovels, snow blowers, and getting ready for our first storm of the year.
He wants to build a snowman, right? You want to build a snowman?
Yeah! Kids are always excited to see the snow, of course. All of this enthusiasm will probably be diminished later on this afternoon when it's all expected to turn to ice and freezing rain. The roads are likely to get very slippery then, but right now things okay, and the snow is still falling here at King of Prussia. I'm Cecily Tynan reporting live on the Action Cam.
All right, thank you, Cecily. And now we want to head into Center City for a look at conditions there. Action News reporter David Murphy standing by live with the details. David.
Light snow has been falling here on North Broad Street at Spring Garden for about 45 minutes or so. No snow on the road yet, and from what we can see, the traffic has not been hindered in any way as of yet. But as you take a look at the sidewalks here, you got to be a little careful because, as you can see, There's a light coating on there. In fact, there's a light coating on me, on my coat, and I've only been out here for about 10 or 15 minutes, so it is coming down. Now, the amount of snow we're expecting to get in Philadelphia is nowhere near the amount, according to city officials, that they'd need to declare a snow emergency. But since we are at the beginning of the main snow season in Philadelphia, we thought it'd be a good idea to go over that main important snow emergency rule that was reinstituted in the city last year. It was a scene that a number of people who parked on city snow emergency routes last year remember with regret. For the first time in a couple of decades, city crews towed dozens of cars left on routes during declared snow emergencies. And as we head into the heart of this year's snow season, officials are reminding everybody that this year all of the same routes will be in place. As for today's snow, there is no declared emergency, so you're safe to park wherever you want. But the city does have snow removal vehicles in place waiting for whatever comes. And because of the cold, Code Blue is also in effect, the city's cold weather program to get the homeless off the dangerously frigid streets and into shelter. City police officers were among those involved in that effort early this morning. Back live on North Broad Street, where again the traffic is getting through here without too much trouble yet, but the road conditions, as Cecily mentioned a short time ago, could end up getting worse as the day goes on. We'll be watching for that, and we'll get back to you if it happens. David Murphy live with the Action Cam on North Broad Street.
David, thank you. And other communities in our area are getting a share of the snowfall as well at this hour, like here outside the State House in Trenton, as we look live on the Action Cam. This is right outside the State House, where we're told it began falling just after 11:30 this morning and continues to fall right now, although not as much of a coating as you saw in Center City in Philadelphia. We're also told that snow removal crews in the Garden State were also braced for the wintry weather, and they'll be on hand if the snow gets problematic.
And that is our coverage of the winter storm up to the minute. We'll have AccuWeather alerts for you throughout the afternoon today here on Channel 6. You can count on Dave Frankel, Cecily Tynan, Dave Roberts,
In tonight.
Skip WrestleFest?
I got some Gardettos.
Gardettos?
Ooh, baby, your love is my destiny.
Some people will do anything for the robust taste of Gardetto snack mix.
This year, I'm going to do 50 sit-ups every morning before my shower.
Why not make a resolution that's easy to keep? Kellogg's Complete Bran Flakes. High fiber, low fat. It's an easy start to a healthier new year.
Ahead on WeatherScope. Frozen rain and snow move north from Texas. How long will it last, and where is it heading next? Coming up on WeatherScope after your local forecast.
This is your local forecast. Weather information you can plan on. Only on the Weather Channel.
Well, as the eastern half of the country prepares to grip with Arctic air, we'll tell you about that, and what may precede that is a little snow event that may catch you off guard if you live in parts of the south. We'll talk more about that and where that Arctic air is going. Right now, for an update on the current storms, let's go talk to Rick Griffin out at the Forecast Center.
Well, thanks a lot, Jim. We're looking at moderate snowfall across parts of Pennsylvania. Freezing rain is icing down the highways in the vicinity of D.C. and Baltimore, also near Youngstown and Cleveland, Ohio. And in Florida, tornadic thunderstorms are not out of the question. We do have one tornado watch in effect in advance of a strong cold front, which is moving into the Sunshine State right now. Back to snowfall. Let's take a look at what it looks like in Indianapolis, Indiana today. You've had up to 5 inches of new snow since midnight last night. Most schools are closed in central Indiana, and it is making for a fun time for the kids, but state police say it's a potentially dangerous time, and we have heard of numerous accidents in Indiana, one including a jackknifed tractor trailer on I-65 that has traffic backed up at last report for about 6 or 7 miles south of Gary, Indiana. So again, if you must go out today, do so. If you have to drive, be extra cautious. Give yourself a few extra minutes to get to your destination. It's also been snowing in the Chicago metropolitan area. And joining me on the phone is Sergeant Robert Dahlberg of the Illinois State Police in Chicago. Sergeant, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Rick.
You mentioned earlier this is the first major snow of the season. So what are the conditions of the metro area highways right now?
The main problem we're having is on Interstate 80 in the south of the city of Chicago. It's we've had about 5 to 6 inches of snow out there is our estimate. It's still snowing lightly, according to my latest report. Interstate 80's got many accidents, let's say, along with Interstate 57, which intersect. And there's many accidents on 80, as I said, and there's only like 1 or 2 lanes that are open right now that are travelable, and the other lane is covered with snow.
All the road crews are out working as hard as they can today?
Yes, they are. They've been out since early this morning, and they're attempting to do their best. It's snowing too hard, and there's so much snow on the ground that they can't keep up with it right now. Hopefully it'll improve. It seems to have slowed down in the western suburbs and the northern suburbs. Along the lake, along the Edens Expressway, Interstate 94, we've had a few accidents out there in the last 15, 20 minutes. Nothing major, but minor ones, so it seems to be snowing a little bit harder out there, too.
Are you advising people just to stay put today, use mass transit, that sort of thing?
Yes, definitely, especially if they can avoid traveling Interstate 80 until the conditions, until the plows can get out there and clear it up and the accidents calm down. Yes, I would advise if they could use mass transit, definitely would help.
Okay, thank you very much, Sergeant Robert Dahlberg. He's with the Illinois State Police in Chicago. Now, let's go on to the weather maps, check on snow history. Of course, the heaviest snows with this particular storm have been over Missouri's Ozarks, extreme northern Arkansas, northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas. Chicago metro area has seen 3 to 6 inches, as well as Indianapolis. Here's your surface map. We've got a couple of low-pressure centers. In fact, we have more than 2 on the map in the east today. One's over southern Minnesota, second low over central Indiana, and in between that there's a fairly large area of light to moderate snowfall from north of St. Louis up towards Chicago and Milwaukee. Once again, radar confirms we have snow near DuPage, Illinois, Chicago, snowing over into lower Michigan near Benton Harbor, Kalamazoo area. Snow's let up a little bit in Indianapolis, but later on today you may see another burst of snowfall and another couple of inches of accumulation. Over closer to Cleveland, it is a wintry mix. Let's go south. Let's talk about a fairly strong cold front moving its way through Florida today. Ahead of it, warm, moist, unstable air is flowing up over Florida. And we have seen, of course, thunderstorm activity. And while that storm activity has weakened a bit, as we'll see on radar in just a second, it could re-intensify at any time. So the Severe Storms Prediction Center has issued this tornado watch. It's in effect until 4 o'clock this afternoon Eastern time. Now, it means, again, that you folks in Ocala, Gainesville, Jacksonville area, later on Daytona, Orlando, Tampa, these storms will be moving your way. And again, while they have weakened recently, they could re-intensify, and they could do so very quickly and could become tornadic at a moment's notice. So keep an eye to the sky, keep it tuned here to the Weather Channel. Severe weather threat, Florida, for the most part today, extreme southeast Georgia perhaps. And then as we work north, a wintry mix. Once again, icing up D.C. and Baltimore. Philadelphia, you've got some snow. New York City, snow is on your doorstep. You may see a couple of inches of accumulation before a changeover to ice later on this evening, and then rain overnight tonight. Let's check on the snowfall forecast for New York and the rest of the Northeast. And Jim's going to tell you about that Arctic cold coming south, too, as we head back to the studio. Jim?
Okay, thanks, Rick. Yeah, I was just turning around looking at the latest observations out of New York City. Virga all quads at JFK, so it's obviously aloft. The air just not saturated yet to allow that precipitation to come down as a complete particle in New York City, but only a moment's away, obviously, before that occurs. If you can actually see the Virga, you're pretty much saturating the layer pretty quickly there. Well, let's go ahead and take you out west, and unfortunately, with this Arctic air, now the warm air is helping to keep the old snow melt going in central California. Long after the heavy rains have ended, the rising water is forcing more people to evacuate. There's also a problem of hazardous material with cracked diesel and propane tanks leaking into the rivers. So that is definitely not good news for the West. I'll tell you, folks, out of all the disasters that we have looked at, this one out west continues to unfold to be one of the biggest that we've seen in at least a couple of years. So really a miserable situation, and truly our hearts go out to the folks out west, and we hope that, you know, you can get life back to order in some way, shape, or form. It is just miserable out there, no doubt about it. All right, let me go ahead and talk a little bit about what's going on here. I'm a little concerned with a surprise snow event, if you will, in the southeast, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But notice the cloud motion in the west, just south to north. So we got big ridging going on in the west. This is why our high snow levels and our snow melt continues to be a problem in the western part of the country. This, in turn, of course, allowing the cold Arctic air to spill east of the Rockies and the Canadian Rockies all the way down to the plains. As a matter of fact, as we colorize this, you can see on the infrared this blue shade, which is our cold Arctic dome. And as it continues to sink on down to the south, we need to keep an eye